welcome to a look at another Omega Speedmaster, one that I recently acquired from a private buyer who had bought this from a retail shop. And he was quite open. He said he'd fallen out of love with this watch, and I completely understand. One of the reasons he fell out of love with it is because he ended up with a watch that he'd paid top price for but didn't get top condition, and that is always going to be a how do I put it, whenever you look at it you're going to be reminded that perhaps somebody out there took advantage of your good nature. This watch I bought after he sent the watch to me, and I reviewed it thoroughly and explained to him what this watch actually is and how much I thought it was worth, and I showed him some comparables of watches that recently sold on collectors forums, and we arrived at what I think is a very fair price. So I do not have the same feeling that he did, in that I'm not looking at this watch thinking that's I paid too much and I was taken advantage of, and so I don't have any residual resentment towards this watch, and I'm able to enjoy it for what it is. One of the reasons I do this channel and wrote my website is so that you never have to get that feeling. You never have to go and pay too much for a watch. You can always have a lower quality watch as long as you pay the right price for it. So all that said, what have we got here? We've got a Transitional Speedmaster from about 1968. It's a 145022-68. We'll see that in the back later. First things to check are the originality, and we can see here that the dial has an applied metal logo. You can just see it under the tip of the chronograph hand. It has an applied metal logo, 3 lines of text, T-Swiss made T, step, long indices. This dial design is the dial design from the previous 321-145012. This watch has the later caliber 861, so it has the caliber of the later watch and the dial from the earlier watch. Very, very unusual, this, and very rare. Dot over 90 bezel here, we can see that, asymmetric case with a single step hippocambus smooth back. So there's immediately the impression on this watch is that the bezel is very, very shoddy, really. It's out of character with the dial. And the other thing is that the case is sort of a little bit tired, got some polishing marks on the back, it's got a ding on the side. So we've got a case that isn't great. So let's go through it carefully and see if we can come up with a grade. First thing is the dial. The surface of the dial, the black surface, everywhere where it's black, is flawless, actually. Flawless. The step doesn't have any damage. There's no damage to the print. The markers are all well covered with luminous material. However, we have a black spot here on the 1 o'clock. I wish we could remove that. I don't think we can. If we could remove that, then this dial would become excellent. As a result of that spot, just like a diamond that has a spot in it, it can't be flawless. This dial can't be excellent, so I give it very good plus, because everything else about this dial is wonderful. The bezel, the dot over 90 bezel, it's got a bit of a ding on the side. It's faded, the color is not very strong. There's lots of damage to both the surface of the numbers here and also the ring. It's probably the original bezel, which of course is a big plus. Strangely, this bezel is better in wear than it is under inspection. But as soon as you look at it, you start to sort of like it less and less. And then, put it on and everything gets better. The case, well, the lines of the case are a little bit blurred, rounded, bit of loss of definition. And here we've got a very deep ding. The camera perhaps doesn't show it as deep, but it's almost like someone's banged a nail in it. And to get rid of that would require laser work. And here you see they've tried to get rid of a damage here, and so that's perhaps accounts for why this is all smooth instead of brushed. To get rid of that ding would require laser work, and you'd have to build it up, and then you'd have to refinish it, and then you'd have to refinish the whole thing. And if you refinish the whole thing, you would then have to refinish this side as well. And then if you refinish this side as well, you have a completely refinished case, which wouldn't match the case back, which has already received polishing. I was unsure what this was until I inspected this in daylight. Lighting can make can be a real help in investigating. So what we've got here is the remains. There's some engraving just under there, and they have removed it. But of course, it's very, very difficult to remove engraving. It goes all the way around here. I can see it clear as day now. It was interestingly, it wasn't something I saw straight away. I knew there was the case back was wrong. Not wrong. The case back had been worked on, but I wasn't sure why. Before we open up, two things to note. First of all, the crystal is almost certainly an old or original crystal because it has the tall Omega in the crystal, and the curvature here is it's a sharp curvature to a flat top, which is unlike. So if you run your finger across, you can feel it. It goes over quickly and then across. So that's nice if it's a real vintage one. The crown here, I knew there was something wrong with the crown. I wasn't quite sure. When we measure it, 6.3 mil. 6.3 mil. Should be 7. Pushers look like the correct spec. One's very dirty on the neck, one's not so dirty. Don't know why. Let's have a quick look inside. Using this opener makes all the difference. Sometimes you have to put a rod through the opener to get leverage, but not today. And as expected, we have a 145022-68. And we see a watchmaker's mark there, and we see pearlage. Do we see any other watchmaker's marks? No, just the single mark. Yes, you can really see where they took out the engraving. Still, I wonder what it said. The original dust cover comes off easily. And here we can see the movement. The first thing to check is the cleanliness, and it's relatively clean. It's got sort of it's clean of dirt, but it's got a lot of dust and sort of it's messy. Then I'm looking at the screw heads. That screw head there is a bit chewed up. That one's okay. That one's, So I've seen worse, but I've seen better in terms of screw head degradation. The copper plates are clean and match each other in terms of color, so I'm happy with that. The white metal parts, I think they're called hammers, whatever they're called. I check them for cleanliness and for any, sometimes they rust or decay, and these ones are clean. So pretty good movement really. And of course we got the movement number there, which is a very early 26 mil movement, which is what you would expect in a transitional. Quite interesting that the early 861s had a movement number in the 26 million range, which was the last of the 321s. So very interesting. Close that up. So in summary, we have a watch here that is for the most part original, apart from the crown. The case that has been worked upon and therefore lost all its original lines and definition. We have a beautiful dial, and with one minor mark and a not very good bezel. We've got very nice hands. We've got, in fact, a very nice face-up watch. So what grade do I give it? Well, the dial is very good plus, but everything else, apart from the movement, isn't. So what we have to do is look at it as a fair, but a fair with a great dial. So that is where the interesting arbitrary judgment comes in between collectors, is just how much do you value that dial and how much do you downgrade the case. In any event, since I put my handmade strap that comes out of one of my old boots on this watch, I've been wearing it for the last week and it's been really enjoyable to wear. It's a lovely looking thing. It does need a service. It needs to replace that crown, and of course I haven't lost hope of being able to take that mark off the 1 o'clock marker, but I'm not setting my hopes upon it. So needs a bit of work, but it's going to be lovely.